if they expect me to walk away from Luton with nothing, I'll make very sure there's nothing to walk away from.
Hello and welcome to the ORH podcast, and we are coming back off a 2-2 draw with Nottingham Forest.
Hello and welcome to the Oak Road Hatter podcast, and we're recording on the morning after yesterday's 2-2 draw with Nottingham Forest. I'm Billy Mully, joined today by Jamie Castle and Kieran Robertson. First of all, Jamie, how are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Recovering from the carnage that was a Nottingham away day, probably the away day that had it all right, with train strikes and rivers bursting its banks after a last-minute equalizer. So yeah, feeling pretty good from that.
Fantastic day out yesterday, Kieran. How are you?
Living the dream, mate. I mean, me and Mick were leaving early doors yesterday with looked like every train under the sun that was cancelled. I had people texting me telling me it was a pointless journey. You don't need to go up to Nottingham. La 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 la. Well, guess what, lads? 2:45. We rock up in Nottingham, ran to the City ground, and well, we all know what happens next. So if anyone said that journey was pointless, I disagree wholeheartedly.
Us Luton fans deserved every bit of yesterday after what some fans had to do to actually just get to the game on time. As Kieran pointed out, his journey was fairly rough. It looked like mine could have been quite rough, but luckily I got my connecting train just in time. And as always, Jamie Castle sailed through with no problems whatsoever. We're going to be speaking about the game in a bit of detail, and we'll also go into too good, too bad. We've got to put it out last night, so we're going to give you our own too good, too bad. But also, writer Lewis Jones has also submitted his, so we'll get straight to that. But before we go into our analysis, we are closing in on 400 subscribers on YouTube, and we're hoping by the next episode we've hit that landmark. So if you haven't already and you like what we're doing here over at Oak Road Hatter, please hit that subscribe button and like this video. It always helps. It helps the algorithm. I don't really know what happens, but Jamie says it does, so I'll take it from him. So too good, too bad. I'll come to you first, Kieran. What were your two good elements and your two bad elements of yesterday's game or occasion in a more general sense?
So I was just briefly thinking about this morning, and I think the two things that stand out to me is one, the carnage and limbs from Eli's goal, and more so the fact that he got the goal. I think that was such a big thing for me, like sort of the last couple of weeks he's had. When you look at Tottenham, and then sadly sort of some of the abuse he was receiving on socials, to then come out, chest it down, spin Worrell like a sack of potatoes and smack it in for 2-2 was just like the cherry on top, icing on the cake, and couldn't have gone any better for him, if I'm honest. And I think the second thing, as annoying as it was at the time to go 2-0 down, and then that's when we started playing, it was taking solace in the fact that we were 2-0 down and started to play and looked like the better side and made a comeback. Like, you can look at it two different ways. And like I said, you've got that first perspective of, why does it take us to go 2 goals down to start playing football? Fine, I can respect that opinion. But equally, there'll be different games this season where we'll be 2-0 down despite being a better side, or 2-0 down and just getting simply outplayed, and it is what it is. But we've still showed that desire to come back, score 2 goals, and get a point out of the game. The subs were a game changer. but I'm sure that's going to allude to some of your too good, too bad. So I'll leave you to sort of digest there.
What about you, Jamie? What's your two good elements? Anything else that you saw yesterday that deserved to be categorised in too good?
Yeah, I think for me the two clears, two goods are going to be, the first one has got to be the character just to come back. I think to be able to get a point from almost nothing. I think I saw someone say on social media that probably the first game where we've got something where we didn't quite deserve to, and I can't fully disagree with that. I think you certainly wouldn't have been too upset at the result based on the performance. I think Forest certainly could have argued that they deserved all three. So to have got a point from what was nothing is a massive positive, and points like that are absolutely priceless in terms of staying up. And secondly, yeah, I think subs. I think Ross Barkley and Andros Townsend changed the game and showed exactly why we brought them in. I thought before Barkley came on, Pelly was good. I thought he was okay. He was good in that press, but I think Barkley, in terms of his technical ability on the ball and distribution, and just there was a few balls that he played down our side. Like there was one through the channel to Eli, and just that interplay with Doughty and Ogbene. I thought he was excellent, and I think he changed the game. I mean, he won the free kick for the first. Townsend delivered into the box. Wasn't the best delivery. I think ORH must have slipped, because my God, how the hell he couldn't clear that. So yeah, two subs changed the game. In terms of the too bad, I mean, I think again defensively probably a bit too shaky. I think we gave away too much, certainly in that first half of the second half. I think the first half we did give a bit away. None of them overly clear. I think Wood at the back post was a pretty big one. Sangare right on the half-time whistle, but then he's a centre midfielder, and I think me and Kieran know him from our PSV following that he's prone to that sort of thing. And yeah, I think another too bad is Reece Burke. Obviously came off again, looked like a injury which to most might be a bit innocuous, but I think to Reece Burke, it could be more severe than it looks. And I think we joked, have you ever seen Gabe Osher and Reece Burke on the same pitch? Because it seems like they're rotating at the minute in terms of their performances. So it's almost like the physio team saying, like, promise, like Reece Burke and Gabe Osher, like, do exist to one another, because they just don't seem to be on the pitch at the same time.
That's making me think now. When was the last time we seen them in the same team? If there might be a glaringly obvious one that I'm missing out, but it does seem to be that way, doesn't it? It does seem to be.
There is a big glaring omission. You're
Player final.
Yeah, that's the one. Call myself a
That's
Luton.
like the number one time.
Okay, we'll move on to Lewis Jones's too good, too bad. He's too good. Nakamba is different class and shown every reason why we went back to get him. I think, coming to you, Kieran, I think with Nakamba as well, the majority of his work goes unnoticed because he splits the play and he progresses the play so quickly. He does a lot of the dirty work, and the fact that we sing his praises so highly most weeks for doing sort of the unseen work just shows how good he is.
Yeah, and I think typically with sort of a deep line centre midfielder or a defensive midfielder in Nakamba's case, it is a lot of the sort of unseen work that fans don't see when they're watching the game or don't watch in the highlights, because obviously it doesn't get shown. In terms of a lot of the stuff that he does, which is more appreciated, is actually off the ball. It's positioning, it's organisation, it's calm. And I think him and Barkley yesterday, like, I love Pelly, and he did not have a bad game yesterday. But the key thing, the difference between like a Pelly and a Barkley next to Nakamba, for example, Nakamba's calm. He's just like, yeah, cool, gets the ball, like you said, breaks the play up, distributes onto the next person. That's his job. And then you have Pelly, who can play a really good pass, has good positioning, but is slightly erratic. He's a bit like, ooh, 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 like jumping to and from. And then Barkley comes on and he's just like, right, calm it. And he just, as soon as he gets the ball stops dead. and his head's already looked up and he knows where the ball's going next. That was the key difference. And I think him and Nakamba as a partnership, Barkley and Nakamba, unbelievable yesterday. Like, Nakamba had a solid game yesterday, but he looked even better, actually, in my opinion, having a Barkley next to him.
You also think you also think what could have been right with the Canberra and the Conga. Like if the Conga stayed fit, I think that pair, especially now in this sort of 4-4-2, 4-2-3-1, in that pivot, I think they could have been excellent together. And I certainly think if you look at drop points, Burnley, Spurs, I think we certainly could have got another point or two. So I think that double pivot, when that comes back next year, sort of January onwards, hopefully we can really start to get in that rhythm.
Going back to Lewis Jones's too good, the second element was showed a lot of fight to get back into the game and salvage a great point. We spoke at the start of the season about Forest potentially being a contender for the relegation battle. I think they've sort of upped the ante a bit. I think from their performances and the results they've got so far, and we alluded to it in the preview, I think they're going to escape that kind of relegation bracket, which makes a point away to them. Seem like that even bit better, especially when you consider the circumstances, 2-0 down and at a stadium like that, very, very easy to lose your way. And for us, sort of 3,000 fans, not to have the kind of impact we would have wanted. But I think that is a massive, massive point in the grand scheme of things, and hopefully it can be built upon. Going to his too bad, it was a fairly poor defensive showing. We could have been hit for 3 or 4. I think we could speak about that just for Chris Wood. Chris Wood could have had 3 or 4, which would have been very, very disappointing. But do you agree with that, Jamie? Do you think defensively it was poor, or do you think that is a bit on the harsher side of things?
Yeah, I mean, I think we gave away too many chances. I think the XG at the end was about 2.8 or so in Forest's favour, which again, as you say, it's a tough place to go to. I think Edward said in his post-match they've only lost 2 in their last 19 home league games, which now is like a full season, right? And they've lost 2. So it is a tough place to go, and they have spent a lot of money and in the most part spent well. You look at Gibbs White, he's a fantastic player, probably on the high side of a fee, but in terms of a player for this level, he's really good. So they're always going to cause a threat and create chances. But yeah, I think when you give away too many chances, I think you are riding your luck a little bit. Like I said, you had the scramble in front of the goal line. You had the Chris Wood back post header. You had the Sangre on half time. Then to let them get through and have scored their 2 goals, so that's 5 chances really. Where on a different day, you're saying that they're 4 or 5-0 up. Not to say that we didn't have our chances as well. I think again, first half, okay, we did give away a few too many chances, but we did also cause a threat ourselves. So it's just that fine balance really, because you go to Fulham and give away next to nothing, but we create next to nothing as well. So it really is trying to find that sliding scale balance between shutting up shop and sort of playing for a point, but also being brave and trying to impact the game as well, which we're just trying to find that balance in a minute.
It's really interesting, the fact that we've spoken about the first few games of the season and that we were on the wrong side of fine margins consistently, but yesterday seemed to flip around in our favour, where we were kind of relentless in our approach, and not smash and grab, because that is completely unfair, but to score 2 goals from 2 good opportunities, like what Wolves did to us, scored with their only real opportunity. Fulham, they didn't create that much. Yesterday seemed to swing around in our favour, which was quite good to see. Hopefully something that can be present going forward, but obviously, as we keep saying, it's so tough in this league, and to finally be on that right side is such a good feeling. Going on to Lewis's second bad element, he feels that we need to be more cutthroat in the final third. Brown with another huge headed chance. Again, I think when we made the subs, I think we added a fair amount in terms of creating chances. I think that's, for me, been one of the big things is the chances we've created, not really creating too many quality chances. But I think once those two came on, they just drove us up the pitch that fair bit more. And Townsend, he cut in on a couple of occasions. He also went down the line and put in a really good cross. It's good to see that. And I think the creating chances is only going to be enhanced by those two on the pitch. But in terms of being more cutthroat, I think yesterday probably wasn't the best example of that. I think we were quite cutthroat, but I do agree that's been an element this season, Jamie.
Yeah, no, it's tough because I do think we did create a bit. I mean, if you look at the first half, you had Ogbene cross the face of goal, and I think the centre half just gets a touch on it in front of Morrison and Brown. There was one that just flashed past the post. I mean, Brown's header was golden, right? He's had 3 chances now with his head. One at Fulham, there was one at home. I can't remember who he was against, whether it was like a Burnley or a Spurs or something, where you just need to put it anywhere but either over the bar or down the throat of the keeper. I think if Brown heads that a metre to the left or a metre to the right, then we go one up, which is frustrating. I think he himself probably is going to be frustrated because he's had some good chances now. But hopefully that comes with playtime and experience and just that confidence and just trying to keep your head. You joke that for a forward you almost just need one to go in off your backside. Which is why the goal for Eli stays massive. I hope that gives him a lot of confidence. And what Kieran said right at the start of the pod was that narrative in terms of the stick that Eli got, especially after that missed chance against Spurs. So then for him to almost redeem himself, let's say, and get that point at Forest, it almost balances it out. So it just shows that we just need to stick by them because we know we are punching way above our weight, and it's going to be a long, hard slog this season. And there's going to be moments where players should have done better, but they're going to work their socks off and try and make up for it over the course of 38 games and hopefully get us enough points to stay up.
We're going to head into a short break, but when we're back, we're going to take a more detailed analytical look at the goals and a little bit about the game itself. We are back for part 2 of today's episode following Luton's 2-2 draw at Nottingham Forest yesterday afternoon. We'll go through the Chris Wood goals both together. Obviously went into the break 0-0. Playing okay. Forest could have perhaps been a goal up at that point, but we got into the break goalless. Chris Wood then opened scoring within 2 minutes of the second half. Delicate little chip, done well to get it in behind. But looking at it, Jamie, was it too easy for him? Do you think defensively there were a few mistakes in that led to the goal, or do you think it was more well worked than it was a defensive error or errors?
Yeah, I think a little bit too easy. It's tough because Lockyer was being brave, trying to press the ball. I think it was Gibbs White that had the ball in the middle on the centre circle. Lockyer tries to press, but Gibbs White just feeds it through, and then Burt goes into Alanga. And then it just seems a bit of a mess really in terms of players trying to be brave and win the ball high up the pitch, but just miss out. It's sort of one of those things where if that was on the other foot, the centre half definitely wins that ball high at the pitch and stops the counter, and we're like, oh, for God's sake. So, yeah, I think for me, looking at the second goal probably is the more easily avoidable one. The first is just a bit, I think, at times unfortunate, at times too easy, and they just managed to feed it through. Obviously, I'll let Kieran go into the second goal, but yeah, I think. For me, Mengi losing Chris Wood, he's just got to be stronger and get in front there.
Yeah, it's interesting because we spoke at the start of the game with Forrest missing, and I still butcher his name, even though Jamie corrected me when I said it in the last pod. So I'm not even gonna try. But when he was missing and Chris Wood was named in the starting 11, probably we were all a little bit happier. But I think he can be displayed throughout why he has become such an effective Premier League striker, because he takes his chances. He's clever with his movement. He holds the ball up well. It was a good all-round centre-forward display, and I think he deserved his brace.
He was just a bit of a nuisance, to be honest. And for the second goal, like, it was an easy header. But I said at the second goal, I said, how on earth have we made Chris Wood look like prime Robert Lewandowski? And fair play to us for doing that, because it's not often you see it. No offence, mate. Fair play. Man of the match, well deserved. But Christ alive. It was one of those where the first goal you've already touched on, but the second one for me, it come from a cross from Elanga, where as a fullback, you just show him on the outside, and Cabore's shown him on the inside on his strong foot. And that's the one thing you just don't do. And admittedly, I think centre-halves could be better with marking. Kaminsky could be better with a save, because it bounces before even hitting the net. Maybe that's put him off slightly. Maybe I'm just being quite pedantic about it. But I just I watched the goal in real time, watched it back, and I was like, it just screams easily avoidable. Like, it's easy to say in hindsight about if they hadn't have scored that goal, or if they had scored, then would we have had the comeback we had? Maybe not. The game would have still been 1-0 Forest, and they'd have still been peppering us. Might have been a different result, but we have this theme of conceding quite avoidable goals, and we talk about it quite a lot. And we come back to the podcast and we're like, that could have been avoided. That could have been avoided. And I appreciate that over time, that sort of conversation is going to dwindle. But I think it's just from perhaps a couple of our younger defenders, your Cabores and your Mengies, it's just having a bit more confidence in yourself and just not being afraid to close your man down, or trusting yourself. So in Cabore's position, where, like I said, needs to show Elanga outside and give him less room, be more confident and stand your ground. Don't let him have his, just because he's the one that's on the home side and they're winning. Show him out, see him out, close him down, whatever you feel like you need to do.
And I was listening to Steve Cooper after the game, who thought that what we'll speak about next was the main focus of the game, the Ogbene goal. That's really the catalyst that started our comeback, and of course it was at half the deficit. But we speak about very avoidable goals. He would be saying the exact same thing there. Townsend best not be claiming that assist. He cannot have an assist for that, surely. And I think it's also joked about that how effective we are typically from set pieces, that other teams go and do their homework about us and our set pieces, because historically we've been very threatening over the last few years. But it was probably the poorest cross of the afternoon that led to the goal. But Ogbene showed real, an attacker's instinct and a phenomenal finish, Jamie.
Yeah, excellent. And I think Steve Cooper was right in saying it was probably our worst delivery of the afternoon, and we score from it. So you can't have too many complaints there as a Luton fan. But yeah, I don't know what Ori is doing. I think watching it back, it seems like he slips a little bit, which is unfortunate. But the way he just does that, it's like she's got to do better than that. And then it's a bit of a ping pong in the box. And then great finish. I think he's sort of like just clips it a little bit and it spins in, rather than it's not the cleanest contact, but ultimately I think if it was a clean contact, it's 5 straight at Turner, right? So it's one of those. Then we have about a 2-hour wait for VAR, and finally it's confirmed. But to be fair, watching it back, it was very tight. I think Ogbene was shoulder to shoulder with their defender, and thankfully we were on the right end of a VAR call for once. And from there, I was chatting to Dad, and we both said that we could definitely get a point from here now. And thankfully we go on to get a point.
And Kieran, you spoke about it at the start, about Adebayo scoring, how fitting it was after sort of the disgusting abuse he's received online. It's brilliant for him, and something that we've grown accustomed to, and I think it's something that Edwards alluded to, is that Adebayo has been central to some fantastic moments since he's come in. And this was right up there in terms of importance and in terms of just sheer brilliance and sheer joy it brought.
Honestly, my opinion of him, I feel, is so much different to a lot of fans, because a lot of fans are quite quick to jump on his back and not realise how influential this man is, right? He doesn't start games all the time, and that is fine. But he is like, in terms of mindset, so before anyone comes to my head with what I'm about to say, but in terms of mindset, he's like our own Drogba. If we need a big moment, you best believe that man turns it on and does something. Playoff final, spins McFadden in, puts the assist in for Clark's goal. And then here, Forest. We need a goal desperately. What does he do? Jump higher, spin a man, smack it in near post, which, for the record of the two finishes there, the near post is the far harder finish to pull off in the position that he's in. And people want to come on here and they want to doubt that man's ability. There's a reason he's trusted in big moments like this. And it's not just yesterday, it's all the time. There's a reason he's trusted, because he does deliver. And yeah, he has his moments like he did against Tottenham. But every single player has those moments. And at the end of the day, if he didn't have those moments, he wouldn't be in a Luton Town shirt. He'd probably be playing for Chelsea or Tottenham, funnily enough. But he isn't. He's playing for us, and he's delivered big moments. And yesterday, there'll be some people who slated him to the high heavens, but just like me, would have ended up 5 rows in front because they were too busy celebrating the absolute pandemonium that goal gave us. So rather than jumping on his back so quick because he misses one chance, have a little think. Think about the moments he's given us. Even scoring on his debut, it was a crap goal, but he scored on his debut. I'm actually wearing the shirt he wore on the debut. He's even got the name on the back as well. And for me, it's just this thing of, generally speaking, we're too quick to scapegoat players and be like, this player's not good enough, that player's not good enough, he doesn't do this, he doesn't do that. But in that split second, there is only one man that I would have trusted. When the ball gets chested down, he's still got to finish his dinner. And I genuinely believe he's the number one player in the club that I would trust in that moment to bury that ball and give us that moment.
Fantastic, weren't it, Jamie? Just everything about it, from the start of the move, chesting it down to finishing, and obviously the pandemonium it created afterwards. It was just a fantastic moment, and as I spoke about before, after the Tottenham miss and the lows of where his confidence would have been after that, it just shows you how extreme the lows and highs of football can be in just such a short space of time.
Yeah, excellent. And just to add to Kieran's point, I mean, away at Sheffield United last season, he beats his fullback, I think, and puts on a plate for Morris as well. That's another huge goal. And I think that game, okay, it was only 3 points, but in the grand scheme of things, I think that gives us the confidence to say, yeah, we can get promotion this season. So I think he's always been involved in some very, very big goals for Luton. Well, he's been here 2.5 years now. So he's done some good stuff for the club, and it's on the goal itself. It's a bit tough because I'm looking at it and you can't see what is too different in terms of him on Worrell compared to what happened. I think it was him on Romero against Spurs. I can't see too much different there, and you think, well, they disallowed our goal against Spurs, but have allowed that one. So again, don't want to hammer the refs too much, but consistency a little bit. But no, I mean, for him to beat Wall in the air, chest it down, get him behind, and just as that finish beyond Turner was excellent.
Before we'll finish today's episode, there was at the end of the game, everyone's overjoy. There's just so many fans with big beaming smiles on their faces all the way back to wherever they were going. But actually on the pitch, when we were celebrating, Rob Edwards, I think the fans wanted Rob Edwards to do his usual punch in the air. But I don't know if I saw this differently to people, but he put just one finger up as if 1 point. He wanted 3. He spoke about it in his pre-match presser. He thought that was a winnable game, and how the exciting finish, the fact we were 2-0 down, everything about that was brilliant. But there's still an element to that he wanted more, which I think is fantastic, that our manager is starting to see the Premier League. He's starting to see this division and expect a higher standard, which is good to see, Jamie.
Yeah, and I think that was what I saw as well. You can see in Mouth 1 point, and it's that never too high, never too low, right? I mean, obviously you go a bit mental at Everton because it was our first Premier League win, and it means so much after what was a tough start. But ultimately now we're in this league and we're on a roll. We're outside the bottom three, rightly, and it's just 1 point. Again, it's one massive point towards our target of 35/40, but it is only 1 point. So there's no point getting too excited over a draw at Forest. Okay, given the circumstances, but we were allowed to be really upbeat because we were 2 down. But in the grand scheme of things, it's just 1 point closer to a points target that we're looking to get. So yeah, I think he deserves that, and I think he was spot on. There's no one that will hurt more this season in moments like the Spurs game and the Wolves game and the Burnley game than Edwards. I think, as we say, he's the guy that works all the hours in the week to set a team up. So if we come out on the wrong end of things, he's the one that's hurting. And at 2-0 down as well, he's probably hurting as well, thinking he set his team up right, and we find ourselves 2 down. So to come back to 2-2, obviously he's over the moon, but it's still only a point. But I think coming into the season, that's going to be a very, very big point.
And the results went our way. We spoke about how important that point could be, but also in the grand scheme of things, when looking at the teams that came up with us, Sheffield United and Burnley, defeats for them, Bournemouth again lost. So taking advantage when other teams are not getting the results on the board, Kieran, it just adds to the joy of what was yesterday.
I think looking at the results yesterday, and I think hopefully the narrative now is going to start to spin a little bit, is people are starting to realise that we're not the worst team ever in this league. Like, we're 17th, fine. We know we're in the fight, fine. However, as it stands, we've been 17th for 3 weeks, I think. So we've not gone up, we've not gone down, is the key thing. But there's 3 teams in this league, as it stands, on paper, if you want to make that argument, that are worse than us based on their results. And a lot of people coming into the Forest game, they were sort of saying, oh, but the only reason they've struggled is because they've had a tough run in, and then they've struggled to beat us, which suggests to me they're not as great as people make it out to be. Will they be 18th? No. But is there potential for points there later in the season when they come back to the Kenny? Yes. It's games like that. Like, Jamie sort of made a point yesterday, and he said they're the sort of team from, say, 13th to 20th. You look at those teams and you aim for 4 out of 6. You get a draw away and you win at home, hypothetically, of course. But at the moment, there's 3 teams worse than us, hands down. And I think that come the end of the season, there'll be 4 or 5. You look at a Palace yesterday, their league position is not the bottom 5 right now. However, a certain someone here put Palace in their bottom 3 predictions. Why? Because as a team, they are not very good. They are not well coached, and they've had a good start, but generally speaking, they are not very good, and they will be down there as well. And I know it feels like the people think I might have a Palace agenda, but it's a few teams that overachieve sometimes, and then eventually you just got to sort. People realise you're not very good, and when you come up against a team, whether it's us, whether it's Sheffield United, whether it's Bournemouth later in the season, who really, really need those points, guess what? That team, who everyone thinks is better on paper, is not going to get the result. Football does not work on a on-paper basis. Last time I checked, football's played on grass. Just like when people use stats as an example, it's a good reason to explain rationale, but it doesn't explain what happens on the pitch. And currently what's happening on the pitch is we're fighting for points.
Yeah, and I think the tide is turning a little bit. I think, as you say, the the rhetoric before the season was we're going to be these battering boys and we're going to break Derby's point record and like we're going to stink the league out. But I think that narrative is turning. I think Gary Lineker said on Match of the Day last night, I think he was sort of spoken over by Michael Richards, but he said that we're looking like the best of the three promoted sides. And I think he's spot on. Okay, Burnley did beat us, and that was frustrating. But I think in terms of over a 9 or 8 game start, like we're the side that's showing the most promise in terms of being able to dig points out. So I think that narrative is slowly changing, and I think that the more teams we play, then the fans of those teams will start to realise actually we're not this absolute stinker of a team in this league. So yeah, I hope that can continue, and Villa away, another massive game. If we can go there and put in a good performance, I think now the point at Forest means that we can go to Villa and have no pressure in terms of results, because I think Villa are that second tier beneath a top 6 now. They're a side that you go to, and if you come away and lose 2-1, you think, yeah, well, fine, it's Villa away. It's a tough place to go, and we're not going to have our season decided on Villa away. So yeah, I think I'm looking forward to seeing how the season plays out and how that narrative changes game by game.
Well, that is it for today. A big thank you to the pair of you for joining, and a big thank you to everyone watching and listening at home. Next game, of course, as Jamie mentioned, there is Villa away. Another away day. Hopefully we all get there on time with good time. Well, you two anyway, because I'm not going to be there. But it's then Liverpool, Manchester United, which very, very important and on paper difficult fixture list coming up. But this is why we're in the Premier League, and we're going to enjoy every moment of it. Big push to our socials as well. I mentioned the YouTube that we're closing in on 400 subscribers. A big push on that would be absolutely fantastic. Of course, we're Oak Road Hatter on everything bar Instagram, where we're Oak Road Hatter Pod. That is it, and goodbye until next Thursday.